The views and opinions on this show are for entertainment purposes only. The only factual information is any story that has happened to AT2 or the parties involved. Other than that, go ahead and get you a drink, get you something to eat, just relax and enjoy the show. Let's have fun. All right, y'all, let's get real. What's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Talk the Real Deal with AT2. And yes, I'm your host, AT2, hashtag TTRD. And if you don't know what that stands for, that just stands for Talk the Real Deal with AT2. Today, you guys, I have a special guest coming up. But before I do that, I just wanted to give you a little backstory. Thank you, Miss Joelle, for definitely bringing that up. I definitely will go over, how this all came about. Also, if you want to be notified of the next show, please text me at 510-600-6676. Again, 510-600-6676. And yes, this is physically me responding back to everybody. So make sure you guys, when you text me, yes, it is me. It's not a robot. Anyway, what's up to all my moderators? Shout out to all my members. Thank you so much for all your love and support. This is a very important topic, a very important story right now. Please go ahead, feel free to share this. Also, hit the like button so this can be, go throughout the algorithm and everything. All right. So Darrell Johnson, he was known for being R. Kelly's crisis manager. Now, did he ever have experience as a crisis manager? He was also known when Gayle King asked him the question, like, would you have your daughter around R. Kelly? And he said no. And then quickly after that, he dropped, he stopped being R. Kelly's crisis manager. Well, Tasha K was kind of doing a little digging, through like the history of R. Kelly because she was heavily involved in it. And, just going through like the people surrounding R. Kelly. And Darrell Johnson was one of the people that she looked deeply into. And thank God for her because, I don't know if this case would have been picked up so much steam and so much momentum because there has been so many other victims. So I definitely want to say shout out to Tasha K for that. But Darrell Johnson, and you'll notice with the stories, like a lot of people were either in a vulnerable state or he pretended to be something that he's not as far as a financial advisor. And, it's really sad because you want to trust somebody and think they have good in them, and you see that they kind of are working with an A-lister and they're high profile, you're kind of like, you may not know everything that happened with Darrell Johnson, but you've seen his face before and go like, I think I've seen this guy, around, maybe he can really help me. So he kind of really plays into that as well. People in their vulnerable state, saying that he can do something financially for them or help them with this and that, and he doesn't end up coming through. And this man has scammed thousands and actually millions of dollars. As one of the victims actually came forward and said her father actually he took $2 million from her father. So, it's just crazy. Today was the arraignment. He will actually be physically showing up to court on Monday. So without further ado, I actually want to introduce my guest. I actually had the pleasure of interviewing her back in February, and she was just so warm and so kind, and I'm just glad that she gave me the opportunity to even speak with her. So without further ado, I want to introduce Cola to the show. Hey, how you doing?
Good evening. Hi, AT. How are you?
Good, good, good. And I want to tell people that you worked in media. You are an author, a published author. You do so many wonderful things. Can you just give people a little backstory about you so they can get to know you?
Oh, thank you. I also want to start off. Every time I look at your intro, it's the twerking for me. I just crack up every time. I'm like, that is too hilarious. Um, my name is Cola Lewis. I am a published author. I've worked in media in the District of Columbia. I recently relocated to Houston for a short period of time. Um, and while I was there, my the name of my company is Cola Books. So we specialize in children's literacy, inclusion. We champion children with developmental differences and support make their families specifically for children on the spectrum.
Oh,
And
that's
so that's
awesome.
what I do. So if you ever get a chance to check out colabolabooks.com, and we have resources and advocacy, especially for children of color, and making sure that they are receiving their free, appropriate public education and connecting them with resources and community programming that can help them with their development. So that's what I do. That's what I love. I worked on air at XM for a couple of years in the District of Columbia and have enjoyed myself in the world of media arts while living in the District of Columbia. And we relocated to Houston probably like in 2017. And during that time in 2019, my mother traveled to Houston to go to MD Anderson Hospital. Where she went in for a blood transfusion and was given an accidental drug overdose and transitioned
Mm,
from renal failure. Um, shortly
so
there,
sorry about that.
thank you for that. As you see, I didn't cry this time.
Yes, yes, yes.
I've gotten stronger. But
It's a
after
process, right?
it is a process. It's a process that I can't quite explain. So like today I'm okay, but you know, earlier today I did cry when I was sharing this with someone else that asked how and why did I seek services from Daryl Johnson. And I began to explain them, and all of a sudden in the middle of that we just came overwhelmed with emotion. But it's definitely a process. I've gotten a lot of therapy and have gotten better in the ability to share about it without being overwhelmed emotionally.
Right.
Um, it was a time when I needed someone to help my family. He positioned himself as a crisis intervention manager who handled high profile cases, and that did a lot in these media, and could help garner some attention to our case to make sure that our voices were heard. So we retained him, and as you know from the previous interviews and the stories that are out, he didn't do any work
Anyway.
and he didn't provide any services after being paid for the services and having a contract. And it just became very weird because there was always a reason why he couldn't do the work, or there was always a reason why the information never came, like it's
Right.
lost in the mail, or I have to go meet with this high profile client, or I have to travel and I'm working for the CDC. I mean, it was the reasons are just like ludicrous, like saying things like he was working for the CDC, and it was really crazy. So after
And he was supposed to be having meetings with the hospital and stuff like that for your case and everything, right?
he was supposed to be meeting with the hospital for my case, and now we learned that he never met with the hospital, and that
Oh my God.
he never did any work, never did any work
So
at
he didn't even pretend, he didn't even give them a phone call. Like there was no meeting at all. Like,
no, no meeting
oh,
at all. And it just became from one scheme to the other. So after even not providing us with the documentation and the results or the meeting notes, he would came back and try to get us to invest in a PPP scheme. That's when COVID first started, and
mhm.
also a Super Bowl scheme, which we later learned from different people. Like even in Atlanta, he ran a scheme in a church where it was like he would go into this church and he would ask people to invest in a Super Bowl party that he was hosting with celebrities like Nene Leakes,
Hmm.
Cynthia Bailey, um, even sometimes with Gayle King, Don Lemon, and he would
He was
have these.
using big names to get you guys going.
Yeah, he was using big names and he was using pictures that he had taken with them, and also because he had legitimized himself through those media outlets with the videos and all the television interviews, you would believe that it was true because he had been legitimized through those media outlets. And so he was going into churches even in Atlanta. So if there are any victims in Atlanta that have been involved in some of his schemes, or even in Houston, we later learned, so he was going into these churches doing these schemes about Super Bowl hosting events, and he was getting all this money from people and never providing them with the tickets to the Super Bowl parties or even giving them the return on their short-term investments.
This man is a horrible person. I didn't even know about the churches in Atlanta. Like, that's something new to me. Like, this man was really going from city to place and just all around. And he knew how to get people by using those big names and stuff like that. Like, for example, did we ever confirm if he really knew Gail King, like personally, like that, or we never know?
I don't particularly know about the dynamics of their relationship. I do know that in my presence, he's spoken with a voice that sounded exactly like Gayle King, and they were talking about the interview that he had arranged for R. Kelly. However, I don't know the dynamics of that relationship, so I can't speak on that. But I
Okay.
can say that in my presence, he did make several phone calls to several A-list media personalities in my presence to talk
Okay.
about different things, but I don't know the dynamics of that relationship, so I can't really say.
Okay. And then another question that I had for you, because you stated that there's people out in Atlanta. It's everywhere. Are there like certain like places as far as like we know Houston and then we know Atlanta. Are there any other places that we know where a lot of people have been targeted, or still trying to find that out?
We're still there's still investigation, and victims are coming forth now. Thank God for Tasha K. I would like to just acknowledge her empathy for our case and giving us a platform, because of Tasha, the story broke and we are here where we are today. After Tasha K's interview, like the families and the victims that you saw today on the news in Houston came forward. And so if it was not for that interview with Tasha K, I seriously doubt that we would be here today. Because of that,
Yes.
like 20 victims alone reached out to me.
Man. And it's one of those things where like people have been getting scammed for years by this man, but they probably didn't know. They probably were, one, embarrassed, like, man, how did I let him get to me? And then two, they didn't know if they could or might not have the resources after he took so much money from them.
Exactly. So what happened, a lot of people did seek the judicial system, but they were directed to go to civil court. And so in civil court, he has over 2 million judgments alone in Houston. And so
Ooh.
because they didn't get any justice in the civil court, many of the victims didn't think to go to criminal. Um,
Right.
so that's why, and he's been, as investigation is being happening, so many victims have come out. It dates all the way back to 98, where he stole $163,000 from a retired NFL player. Um, so we learned today that there is no statute of limitation. Um, so victims who thought they didn't have an opportunity for their voices to be heard can now come forward, because as long as there are crimes being committed, the statute is from the last date of that last crime. So if 2019 was his last crime, then the statute of limitation would start from 2019, and all of those victims that he has taken advantage of can be added to one case. And unless there's a break in the year, so like say if somebody did 2013, 2014, 2015, and there's no one comes forward from 2016 or 2017, then it would stop right there.
Okay.
Let me reverse backwards. So it'd be 2016, 20, let's say 21, 20, 19, 18, and then if he got to 15 and no victims came forward, they would say, okay, that's where it stops. So any victim like that may have skipped a year after that, they would not be included in this particular case.
Okay.
So it opens up the world of possibilities for victims to come forward that may not have had their voices heard because they went the
Right.
civil route. There's possibly no restitution to be received from the victims because this millions of dollars. And so we're not looking to get money back. We're looking for justice, and
Right.
we're hoping that he's incarcerated so other people would not be taken advantage of. Stories have come forward that he's taken money from elderly, 89,000, 86,000, 100,000.
Oh
There
man.
was one gentleman that he scammed. I think he took $183,000 from, and it was so devastating to this victim that he actually committed suicide
Oh
here in
no.
Houston.
Oh,
So he was going into churches, running Ponzi schemes in churches. So
mm,
we just want to thank every blogger that is giving a platform to us to ask any victim to please come forward. No amount is too small. As the DA
right.
shared with us today, there is no such thing as like a smart person or an ignorant person when you're a victim of theft from a con artist. This person
Right.
is a sociopath, um, a narcissist, and he's a professional at what he does. He takes your vulnerable situation, he listens to you, and he takes it and uses it to manipulate you into believing that he has a level of empathy and connect with you. And he uses that inroad to connect with you to continue to build trust, but the intention is to steal.
Right. Because he gave an example of like his mother was sick or something. Like that's kind of how he started talking to you, right? If I remember
Mm-hmm,
correctly,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, he told me that he could empathize with my circumstances because his mother had transitioned at MD Anderson Hospital, and he had a similar case, and he showed me actual pictures of an elderly patient in the hospital hooked up to tubes that he said was his mom. So we connected on that level.
Right. But then we don't even know if that was true because he's a hustler and just probably would just pulled up any picture.
It could have been any picture because as I've spoken to other victims, they said, well, he did that 2 years ago, you know? So, yeah. So this is a part of his scheme to show you images and give reasons why. Now, for other people, like he had rented a car from a
Mhm.
luxury car dealer, and he showed them pictures of why he was not able to make payments or be available when they needed him to make the payments. So it varies, but yes.
Right. But I was going to say it's so crazy because everyone has, and I want you guys to definitely look at the Tasha K videos. We'll go ahead and post links after the video is done. But, everybody had like a similar story. It was different, but a similar story of like, they met this guy and with the newer stories that have been developing after the Tasha K video, have you been noticing people at the moment and saying he's this and that?
Yes, the trend is um most of there's another gentleman who reached out to me, and he showed me his contracts and everything. Daryl stole $100,000 from him
Uh,
here in Houston after his mother transitioned. So there is a trend of people who are very vulnerable and who are just seeking some help in a circumstance that they feel like there's no one to help them or guide them through the judicial system or just through the process of something traumatic that has happened.
Right. Can't even think. Oh man. And and I'm glad that you talked about too, like this is somebody who is taking advantage of people. Like, don't feel bad, because that's why I also wanted to stress that too. There might be some people who are like, hey, I'm embarrassed, or they don't know what to do, but you want to let people know, like, hey, they can reach out to you, or I went ahead and pinned the number up top for Christina. Do you just want to tell the people a little bit about that, like how they can get in contact with her?
Yes. Christina O'Connor works for the district of attorney that's prosecuting the case. And the 713 number that's pinned in AT's, I don't know, is it called the bio?
Yeah, description.
Description is where you can call and report your case, and that case will be investigated, and if it's proven to be valid, you do have to have proof of a transaction. Like, you have to have proof of like where you paid him, not necessarily a contract, but some type of agreement of service, and prove that you did provide him with money and there was no return on that payment or no production of the results that were contractually agreed to be delivered to you. And
Right.
that would cause you to be included in this case that is currently um in the courts. And I do want to say I thank you so much for speaking to the victim shaming, because after I did my interview,
Mhm.
several YouTube bloggers went on and say how dumb and crazy this woman is and things of that nature.
Really? Oh,
Thank God I have thick skin. Um,
yeah.
but there was a lot of victim shaming, and and it does prohibit people from coming forward, because
Hmm.
individuals begin to feel like they're not that they necessarily believe that, but when you're already vulnerable and you've already been abused and taken advantage of, you don't want anyone to come and throw salt in the wound and make you feel even more um inadequate. And so it is very important that
Right.
we are careful, how we are very critical of people. We all have accountability. I take 100% accountability. I was vulnerable. I was devastated. My mom had just died and I needed someone to help me. I didn't have anyone that would be willing to take the case, because
Right.
I'm going up against a conglomerate in the United States. Like, this is one of the largest medical centers in the United States of America. People travel from all over the world to get treatment at MD Anderson Hospital. And so when we presented that case to several attorneys, because of the immunity from the hospital, they were
Yes.
want to touch it. We just don't. And I just felt like my mother was not receiving justice, and her beautiful life was taken and cut short because of a medical malpractice. And so you have to really just consider people. No one reaches out to someone to have thousands of dollars taken or hundreds of dollars taken or $20 taken. Who has money
Right.
to be just given and taken for a service is not rendered? And so I just want to really encourage people to have some level of humanity and just love on each other. We all have things that we need compassion for, and victims need just as much compassion as the defendant. A lot of people go
Right.
to the defendant and say, well, he was just doing X, Y, and Z. But yeah, if you're a victim and you've met Daryl Johnson, and or anyone who has conned you out of your money with an intent, that's the thing, with an intent to take your money.
Yes.
Why you came to them is a good reason or not, or a valid reason or not, or a wise choice. Their intent is not to deliver on an agreement that you're contracting them to do.
Hmm.
I want to encourage you, find and go to the police department and file criminal theft charges. Don't
Yes.
worry about the civil. That will happen. But in order for some type of justice and to get this person off the street, you want to file criminal theft charges.
And you know what is so crazy to me, because I did not know that other bloggers is basically like saying, paraphrasing, like, "Oh, you guys are dumb. Like, why would you give this man money and all that stuff?" But I know I have, we've all been taken advantage of financially. That's the crazy part. We all have.
Yes, it happens. Steven Spielberg, Bernie Madoff took millions of dollars from these intelligent,
Right.
wealthy people. One time I was, and so yeah, you just have to be mindful that life happens to all of us, and whatever lesson the universe is garnering through that experience has to be something that will endow you with a greater knowledge and more humanity and more wisdom. And
Mhm.
I had to take it from that approach. And I also had to look at, like, because of my case, I was able to bring voice to other victims who have now become like my family.
Yes.
And, they were like, Cola, we just didn't have any direction. We didn't know what to do. And we just thank you. And even though at that time I felt so embarrassed, I felt like, wow, like
Mhm.
now my mom's legacy would just, be this ending without any type of voice. But
Oh
in its
no.
own unique way, this is still working out where I'm still bringing exposure and bringing awareness about medical malpractices, especially that happen to African Americans.
Right.
Um, it happens so often. I've even had other family members reach out and say they've had family members who have died at major hospitals, and how to approach the circumstances. They didn't know how to do that before that interview with Tasha.
Yes.
So it's been a lot. It's been a lot to unpack. It's been a web that has been very intricate to unweave. But in the end, which has yet to come, but in the process, there's been a lot of growth for my part, and a lot of people whose tears that were placed in a bottle with their name on it, it's being
Mhm.
heard. And I just want to champion other people. If you're out there, I don't care how much money Daryl has taken from you, call and report it to the DA. The more people
Please.
that come forward, the more the numbers go up, the more time he will have to serve.
Right. And I wanted to get into, as far as he's out on bail currently right now, the arraignment, and then Monday he is going to appear in court. Can you go over a little bit of that today? Because as we know, this, and I asked you, you were like, this wasn't a planned thing. Like, you happen to go there and seen other victims as well too, and more people that you didn't even know about.
Well, I will, to for clarity, we have created an ally and relationship. So the victims coming today, it was planned. We did schedule it, and we've been communicating and supporting one another.
Okay.
The people that have come forth have been since KPRC and Tasha K's interviewing. They're reaching out to us, and we're bringing them the tools and the resources that they need. And
That's
we're all
awesome.
being, yes, to get connected together in this plight. Um, and so, because of the COVID, the courts had allowed Daryl to waive his right to appear.
Mhm.
Um, but the um after the case had aired in KPRC Channel 2, and once this charge with Mr. Harris and I, more victims came forward and have reached out in a result to the DA. And so they go back to the grand jury to indict more charges. And so,
Okay.
based on that, that's where the bond restrictions and changes will come on Monday. So they're going to change the bond restrictions. So, like, he won't be able to travel, he won't be able to do business, all of those things, since that last airing was like September the 29th or something like that.
Yes, 29th.
Yes. And so since then, because more victims has come and the dollar amount has increased to the millions. So when Mr.
Yes.
Harris first did, it was like right under 100,000, which is a third degree, aggravated felon.
Hmm.
Now we're moving into a first degree felon, which is more time.
Right. And do you think that this case is going to be, well, I mean, anytime there's a case, it is a fight, but do you think that this is going to be something that, you guys are going to be looking at months and months, or do you feel like this case might move fast because there has been so many people and we're talking about a large sum of money?
We're hoping that that's what we are hoping that it's fast, and justice is served quickly. But there are a lot of people, and from research and investigation, this has gone back all the way into 1998, when he produced a event here in Houston called the Theologian Awards, where
Mm.
he was writing checks. He was using people's credit cards to pay people like, oh, Fred Hammonds. He owed Fred Hammonds money. Um, so it goes far back as that, the theologian. So if there's anyone listening and you were scammed during the Theologian Awards, it was just supposed to be this huge award ceremony for Christian artists, recording artists, and he was bringing them into Houston. And from my understanding, he used a lot of people's credit cards to like book hotel rooms, pay for air,
Mm.
and he never gave them a return on their investment. Some of those people did reach out after Tasha K. We want to encourage you to reach back out to us. There is no statute limitation. Your voice can be heard and included in this for
Yes.
your justice. So I want to encourage you, please call us, call the DA, call AT, call Tasha K, get the information. You can inbox me on Instagram at Colabola Books. Your voices can be heard and justice can be served. And
Mhm.
those people, even those people can be included in this. But it's been going back that far, AT. Like he's
That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. He's even down to he opened up a restaurant in his son's name. He La Colonial restaurant here in Houston. He did a Super Bowl party
What?
and didn't pay them. So it goes
Did
back.
he put the PG&E or the electric bill in his son's name too?
I, when you go, and this is public record, when you go and look, there's sports entertainment agencies open in his son's name that supposedly put on all these events. So prayerfully, it won't take that long, but from my understanding, as people are coming forward, this has been going on for at least 20 years in Houston.
Man. So at least 20 years in Houston. We know about Houston, but we don't know about all the other places because he does travel.
He does travel, and he was living in Atlanta, in between Atlanta
Hmm.
and Houston. And I've had several people, like I said, to reach out to me from Atlanta that said that they were scammed out of money there.
Wow. I was going to ask because, you made it a point like, we're not expecting money to be paid back as we know it's in the millions, but has anybody looked into his financial records or anything like that? Or will that be a part of the case to see where has his money gone? He's been doing this for years. So I figured there must be something, somewhere he's moving the money, you know?
Yeah, that is a part of an ongoing investigation. And in order for anything to be considered proven, that has to be taken into consideration because it just can't be off for hearsay.
Right, right, right. You're right about that. It can't just be hearsay. Do you think that he possibly was working with other people as well too? Because it seemed like it's such a large the way he's been running the scheme for like the last 20 years, there has to be people like facilitating and like helping him. Do you know anything about that or no?
I do not.
Okay.
I was never presented to any business partners outside of his wife and a young lady named Bree Bradshaw. He did connect me with her, and
Mm.
they were in relationship as a part of the scheme. So if anyone knows that name, Bree Bradshaw, and you've been victimized by any of her acts, um, please call the police right away.
Oh wow, you ain't playing games.
No,
Bree Bradshaw is Brie Bradshaw.
I don't know how to spell it, but I just know she's out of Atlanta. She was a pharmacist, and she was from Ohio, and they were running the schemes together. They were working in tandem.
Oh wow. Okay,
Now
Atlanta.
he did introduce me to her as his significant other, but they were doing business together based on the conversations that he had with me.
Right. And you mentioned his wife. I was wondering, has she been charged with anything or no?
Not to my knowledge. Currently, the only one is Daryl.
Okay. Okay, just Daryl. Okay.
Yes, he's the
Ye-
face of Johnson's whatever crisis management. He's the face.
right. And the Johnson's crisis management, is that an actual like LLC, or is it just a name that he just happens to own? Like, is it an actual business?
It is a business that is
Okay.
registered in Delaware, and he actually had a website where he advertised himself as a crisis manager. So it wasn't just like, oh, he didn't have those things. So he had the legitimization of major television networks and
Hmm.
had a website to support where you can find him. But there was very little media coverage of other A-listers that he had worked with. But he's a crisis manager. So mostly those people who are PR and marketing are behind the scenes. R. Kelly just happened to thrust him in front of people because he was acting as a liaison and a voice. But then
Right.
after the research came, that was really his only A-list client that he had ever done a crisis management for. That's why there was nothing else to support his claim
Right.
outside of the legitimization from the major television networks and those R. Kelly interviews.
Right. Those are and to think about it, those are the only things that we've seen. That's why I mentioned that earlier. Like, he was supposed to be this crisis manager, but who did you exactly help? I know his name was tied to Michael Avenatti and stuff like that, but it just seemed like that was a quick meeting and then that was it. But that relationship was even weird. But we've never seen any clients except R. Kelly. That's the only one that we actually know of.
Yes, and there was a he does he's very crafty in
Hmm.
scheme of how he was positioning himself. So he basically, I'm so interested, like he's food Hollywood. Like here's a man that has came into a small community of professionals who have worked very hard at their craft, and he has conned his way into their life through manipulation and charm because he's very charming. He does
Hmm.
have the ability to influence. But
Smooth talker, all
it's
that.
yeah, it's just unfortunate that his intentions are thwarted because it's such a gift that has gone to waste. Like he does have the ability to integrate himself into a conversation and connect with you, which is what most leaders want to be able to do.
Right, right.
Unfortunately, he uses his for perversion and thwarting the whole gift of leadership.
Yeah, the gift that he has. Something else that I found interesting was that because originally I thought maybe, not that it matters, but I thought he was just scamming other black people, but it seemed like it didn't matter. Like it's a whole rainbow coalition of different victims and stuff like that.
Yes, majority of the victims that we had first discovered were African Americans or of African descent, because he was using the platform of arts that spoke to the demographics of African Americans or people of African descent, like gospel,
Mm,
um,
right,
R&B artists. So he was really using that as a platform to market to them. Um, the other the other victims that are of other ethnicities and races, he was using the whole real estate and business.
ah,
Yeah.
okay. He was using real estate for other people. Okay,
Mhm.
got it.
And some in our community, but we were able to identify mostly with him because he would say, I'm producing these events, I'm doing these Super Bowl events, I am,
Mhm.
building condos with Jay-Z or something. Mr. Harris stated that he said. So he was able to use that familiarity, is what I want to say, with our community because that was something we had in common. Yeah.
Right. And did he purposely seek out people that were middle class or upper middle class or as far as like maybe people with a certain career, like in arts or business people? Were those more his targets? Like, was there a specific kind of like career or job or anything like that?
I haven't seen that as a trend. No, so I can't say, you know, um,
Hmm.
we're all of different socioeconomical status.
Right.
However, all of us had the money to invest and take a risk. And entrepreneurs, that's what we do. We take risks. If you're an
Yes.
entrepreneur, you have to take risks. You look for opportunities to invest your capital and have a return. So it's not uncommon to want to invest. And you do want a higher return because the bank is not going to give you 20% in return on your money in 2 years. But you
Right.
can do some small investments that will give you a great return at a shorter period of time. And so that's common for entrepreneurs to do that. So that's not unprecedented. You understand what I'm saying? So,
Right.
but for some of those of us who are entrepreneurs, we take what is the beginning, the last of where we are to invest in the beginning of where we want to go. So there have been some victims who lost businesses because they took the last of where they were with hope of investing in where they wanted to go. So there was a family that lost their daycare center because they invested some money
Oh
with
no.
Darryl. And so there were some of us that he took our last, and then there were some of us that have been able to bounce back and to regenerate that loss. But emotionally, it's difficult because you begin to feel the injustice of the world and feel like there's no justice for you when you were trying to do something great for your own future. And so
Right.
that is also another reason why it's so important not to victim shame. Why should someone be victim shame for believing in hopes and the opportunity to increase and to grow and to enhance their lifestyle? Why should people be victim shamed? You know? Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
And you met Michael Harris too, right? Was he there today?
Michael was there today. Michael and I flew in, and some other victims traveled in. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, because I remember him from the video as well too.
yeah.
Yeah. What I was thinking about was for Monday coming up. Will you be there as well, or?
The intention is to be there to
Okay.
to for various reasons. Yeah. Even though I was surprised that he wasn't there today, but it wasn't discouraging. This is a process. And Solomon
Right.
said, a process of time. Every man is given his opportunity. We're encouraged to just be ready, and
Right.
God is faithful. And though at times you grow weary in well doing and you don't
Hmm.
like a just recompense or reward is going to be given back to you for your loss, but it does happen, and we're a witness that is happening. And there have been victims who cried and said, Cola, it's been 10 years, and I didn't think there was going to be an opportunity for my voice to be heard. You want to be heard, and you want to be vindicated, not necessarily restitution in the money, that would be great. But when you
Right.
victimize, you just want to feel like God saw the injustice, and those who did you wrong, were something, they got what they deserved.
Right. And he's not gonna get away with this too. You're worried about like, oh, is he just gonna slide by with this?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Have you seen him face to face yet or no?
No, I have not. I haven't seen him since the last, shortly after he had met with Michael Avenatti. That was my last meeting with him.
Hmm.
No, I have not. And neither
Yeah.
in communication, because once I realized that I was victimized of theft, it was in my best interest to cut all ties and allow
Right.
the process of justice to begin.
Right. And hopefully this is not a too personal for you, but you know, what emotions will you feel once you do see him, Monday, when he shows up? Like what kind of emotions will you go through or you haven't even thought that far into it, because this is something that has finally got media attention. It's like, okay, we're finally moving along. Is it like a thank you, or like, what kind of emotions do you feel like you'll feel on Monday?
I don't know. Um, but I do know I would like for every victim's voice to be heard in
Right.
the judicial system concerning this case and other cases that are similar to it, to feel that your cry in the dark is not alone. Because so often when you go through things like this and you experience loss, you feel very weary. Um,
Right.
and even, so I don't know. I just know I pray that and that we're able to maintain our
Yes.
faith in the process, because the judicial system, as we know, is not necessarily always favorable for people who've been taken advantage of.
Hmm.
You can have the right lawyer who can find a loophole and move it around and slight the process. We've seen it happen in our community when it comes to things even more devastating, such as racial profiling, uh, people of African descent who've been killed wrongly. So you just never,
Right.
you just don't know. And as a people of color, we fight hard in this America for
Yes.
our voices to be heard and for justice to happen. I mean, we have to fight for every damn thing. You stole my money. Why are there people who can prove, and you see over $2 million of civil cases in the same court, and people of color have no justice? Why is that? Why?
So crazy and so ridiculous. The system is the system is working against us and not working for us or with us.
And in white collar crimes, it happened all the time. And what I have learned in this process, that it's not the white collar crime does not just protect the people. It protects the victims are very much insulated. And so, like I said, now the other, I call them family members now, have come.
Hmm.
You're right. They're different ethnicities, different racial demographics, and socioeconomical statuses. But it is hard. I just want to just say, and while I have the platform, I've spoken to some of the other victims in the R. Kelly case.
Hmm.
The level of hate that they're getting, these women have gone and bared their soul. They've
Oh,
cried for justice, whatever, for whatever reason they were connected to Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly has to be accountable for his actions.
yes.
The young ladies have to be accountable for their action. But I just want to ask our Black people, stop with this victim shaming. We have to
Yes.
unite and be allies one for another. And we have to set aside our differences because we have more in common. And if we want justice in one area of the judicial system, we have to also fight for it in the other and make an impact across the board in order for there to be significant change and to see some restitution, to see some justice. But when we remain divisive as a people, we're not
Hmm.
progress in this world. We're not. I don't care what you say. We're not going to progress until we unify on one thing. We want
Yes.
justice, period. And, I just want to encourage that. And I just want to send love to any person who's watching or listening. If you've been hurt, you've been manipulated, you've been taken advantage of, please, I pray for mercy over your spirit tonight. But I just want to encourage you, you're not alone.
You're
Your
not.
voice matters. Call someone, seek justice, reach out to people like AT, reach out to Tasha
Yes.
K,
Please.
people who are trying to create a platform for justice, and just put aside your difference and all your biases and opinions and focus on the one thing that you do want your voice to be heard.
Right. And something that I want to stress is that this is not a AT2 exclusive where no one can report on this or no one
Oh
can
no.
reach out to Cola and, ask for them for her to be on your for on their platform or anything like that. We want this shared throughout all the bloggers and for throughout everyone. Like, let's get this story out. Like, I'm not being selfish with this one. No, you can have it as well. We can
Yeah.
all have it. Like, we can all share this.
Yes. Daryl Johnson has to be put in a position where he can no longer take advantage of innocent people and steal. He has stolen 89,000, 90,000 from
Mhm.
elderly, from his own family members. As you saw in the interview, he took $60,000 from his wife's cousin. He has
Yes,
no
I seen that.
yes. He's he's a narcissist. He's selfish, he's cunning, he's charming. um, if you are a victim and if you're anyone who wants to share this information on your platform, please do share. Please get the
Yes,
word out. Call Christina O'Connor with the Houston District of Attorney
yes.
at the
The
same.
number's pinned right on top, you guys, in the chat.
Yes, and tell the world that he won't be able to sleep because he knows that his day in court has come.
Yes, finally. Cola, my last question for you. I wanted to know, will you be speaking at the sentencing or anything like that? Do you know if there will be any testimonies or anything like that?
If we go to trial and say, for instance, he says, I'm not guilty, okay, fine, that's your right. And then we go to trial, then we would have to come up and testify
Got
about
it.
yes, yes, but that's yet to be determined. And but I will say this is a very bold man. He stole $30,000 from another victim, and the victim said that he saw Daryl maybe like a year later, and Daryl approached him and tried to get him to invest in another business venture. And the gentleman said he was like, "Are you
This man
crazy?"
is bold.
Yes, and said Daryl said to him, "Oh, I see you haven't let that go." So, he's bold. So I don't foresee because of his level of arrogance and narcissism, which is a very ill narcissism is a very distorted psychological sociopathic complex that will create justice in so much evil that I can see him saying he's not guilty.
Right. I could definitely see him saying that just because, you already say he's a narcissist. So I definitely can see him saying, like, I'm not guilty. Like, what have you talk?
Yeah.
Nonchalant, just like it is whatever, like, it's
Yeah, because he
scary that there's people like him out there. There's millions, I shouldn't say millions, thousands of Daryl Johnsons out there.
yeah. Yeah. He emailed me back once right after this, right before I went to the police, and he was like, I've talked to my attorney, and even though I don't agree with you, I've been advised to give you your money back, but you have to sign a non-disclosure. And I'm like, really? So narcissism is a illness that is very thwarted that will allow you to believe that your truth is really right and there's no wrong. So we'll see what happens on Monday. You should come
Yes.
and fly and come report.
Yes, yes, and we definitely will be following up with you on Monday. Is there anything else you would like to say to the people before we end the live?
I want to thank everyone for giving attention to this conversation and allowing it to be placed on their in their thoughts and spoken into the universe as a place of justice. And I want to encourage every victim to please come forth with kindness. We are here to listen and support you through this process. And if you are a victim of any type of crime that is being committed to you, you matter. And please do not
Yes.
suffer in silence. And there is someone like an AT or Tasha and other people that are here to help you, and that I love you and that I wish you well, and I send you comfort and peace.
Yes, yes, yes. And Cola, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your story and just letting people know, like, hey, there's no victim shaming around here. Please come forward.
Yeah.
It's not too late. Don't worry about that. Please come forward and say something. Everybody's showing you love in the chat too. They're
Oh,
putting
thank
hearts.
you. Thank you so much.
And we'll be following back up with you on Monday, but I'll talk to you before then.
Yes, call the DA tonight, tomorrow, Saturday. Call.
Right. And you can
They're
hit you
wanting you
can
to
hit
call.
me
They're
up. You can
wanting you
hit
to call.
Cola up, Tasha K, anybody, please.
Thank you.
Of course. And thank you for coming on. You have a great night.
Likewise.
All right. Talk to you later. Yo, I love her so much. She is just so dope. And you know what? It's funny because I didn't even get a chance to tell her. She gave me some after our initial interview. She gave me some encouraging words about like, I think you're doing good, and I can see your platform just going further and further. And I never got a chance to thank her for that, and I just thought about that when I let her go. Man, just showing her so much love. This is very tough. We've all been in those situations financially. Speaking of financially, I wanted to say, I didn't want to interrupt, so I didn't say it, but I put it up on the screen. Shout out to Laugh Gags and Gossip, who are just sending super sticker after super sticker after super sticker. I think somebody cashed at me too. If I'm right, I got a notification, but I was trying to flow with the conversation. Thank you to everybody who donated. Super chatted, super stickered, cashed app, Venmo, all that. I appreciate you guys. But going back to what I was saying, when it comes to financially getting taken advantage of, I think we've all been in that situation where we have been taken advantage of financially. It sucks. Let me tell you, it sucks. It happens. You are not foolish. You are not dumb. You are not easily manipulated or gullible. It happens. Especially when you are investing in something. The definition of an entrepreneur is a risk taker. And so these are entrepreneurs and they took a risk. Did it turn out well for them? No. However, this is what happens. This happens a lot. No one should ever feel ashamed. Like, please reach out. Please call. You can reach out to me, Cola. The numbers up top for Christina O'Connor. Please reach out to these people, and hopefully, these people can get justice, the justice they deserve. And I just want to say thank you to all my AT-tubers for checking out the show. Hey, Ernestine, make sure you guys, if you just got here, check out the replay. This has been an awesome show, and we will have an update on Monday as well, too. And shout out to Laugh Gas and Gossip for the super stickers. I appreciate you. But we're going to go ahead and get out of here, you guys. Members, I will be live in another 30 minutes. We're going to do members only live today. So peace out. Deuces. Love y'all.